Hey guys, sorry to interrupt this video real quick. I had to re-record some scenes during this video because of the audio kind of fucked up a little bit, and now my microphone sounds different compared to when I first recorded this. So some scenes you might hear me as you hear me now compared to other scenes with a higher pitched voice. I'm sorry for the inconvenience, and I hope you guys enjoy the rest of the video. Hey everyone, my name is Kevin, or also known as Venom, and welcome to 10 killers that should be in Dead by Daylight. The list is in no particular order, it's all been randomized to keep things fresh and not debate on who deserves to be higher than the other. I tried to mix things up with not just horror movie characters, but also video game characters, comic book characters, and manga killers that could possibly fit into the entity's realm, as some may know that the entity might just want some new toys to play with in its realm. Now, enough talk, let's just go straight to the list. At the number 10 spot, we have Jason Voorhees, or also known as the Slasher. Jason's already a beloved character that been wanted for years in the Dead by Daylight because he fits so perfect into this universe. Who doesn't want Jason in Dead by Daylight? I do. I want him in the Dead by Daylight. He's one of my favorite slashers, and he's more than well deserved to be in it. Back in 2016, Jason couldn't be in Dead by Daylight because of two major reasons. One of them being it had its own video game itself with Jason Voorhees called Friday the 13th, the game, where you get to play as Jason versus 7 campers and they're trying to escape Jason's wrath. The second reason why he couldn't be into the game is because of the lawsuit between Sean S. Cunningham and Victor Miller between the rights of the Friday the 13th, which also killed the game itself. That kind of put a halt of Jason Voorhees being added into Dead by Daylight as well. Lawsuit's been now over for a while now, and even announced a new Friday the 13th movie coming out in 2023. So that also brings a possibility of Jason being open to come into Dead by Daylight itself as a new brand new killer. I don't expect it to happen anytime soon, but it could be possibly happening in 2023 or 2024. It depends on how the talks go between Dead by Daylight and Sean S. Cunningham, the rights holder of Jason Voorhees. I would say it'd be pretty good promotion due to the new movie coming out in 2023. And if you ask me for what survivor that could fit into with Jason Voorhees in Dead by Daylight, it's Tommy Jarvis. It's an obvious answer because he's been his nemesis since 3 movies, all the way since part 4 through 6, and he was the one who keeps getting away, and maybe he can try to escape again in the entity's realm. At my number 9 spot, we have Vecna. I don't have another name for him for Dead by Daylight. I'll let you guys come up with a name for that. But Vecna is already a popular character and already made a huge impression amongst its fans of the Stranger Things community, even praising it to be like as the best villain in the whole series. And I think so as well, because he has an interesting backstory, interesting powers, and he's been hinted at ever since the first season. And why did he deserve to be in Dead by Daylight? Well, the answer is simple. Stranger Things is already a popular show, and the Demogorgon was already well received and loved amongst the community between Stranger Things and Dead by Daylight, and it blew people's minds that the Demogorgon was joining the roster of killers in Dead by Daylight, and we can do that again. I understand the concerns about Vecna being added to the game while Demogorgon is not in the game anymore. Like, he's still playable, but he is not be able to be purchased since Netflix sadly took them out of the game. But I feel like they can renegotiate a new contract between each other to make both sides happy, which I don't understand why Netflix took him out in the first place, because he already was loved and sold well, and I don't know what Netflix was thinking at that time, but I'm hoping they can rethink of a new deal or come to their senses to bring back the Demo Puppy back with a new type of killer to have fun in the entity's realm. The survivors that can join in Vecna with this chapter, it could be Eddie Munson and Robin from Stranger Things season 3 and 4, which they already made huge impressions amongst his fans and already fits perfect, and possibly have Hopper as a legendary skin in the game because everyone loves Hopper. At our number 8 spot, we have our first horror manga character that I feel that it could possibly work in Dead by Daylight, and she is known as the Smile Girl, or Fuchi, from Junji Ito, or also I would call her the model. Junji Ito is already considered as one of the best horror mangaka in the world, and one of his monsters deserve to be in Dead by Daylight. And I think Fuchi is a good fit into the world because she already looks like a monster, and she's already kills and attacks, and she's just already a creepy looking thing to look at. So Fuchi personally is already disturbing to me. She's tall, intimidating, and that smile is already iconic and horrifying. Just to see her running towards you with that big grin smile, trying to eat you. If she could be added into the game for whatever reason, I think she could be an interesting skin for either the play or the artist, because they're both known as tall women in the game, and I think they could possibly fit the whole creepy vibe with that character. But that's just my personal wish list. What do you guys think? At my number 7 spot, we have Springtrap, or also could be known as the attraction in Dead by Daylight. Controversy aside, FNAF has already made a big impact in the indie horror community, spawning multiple sequels, multiple spin-offs, multiple books, and it's just a huge deal in the market selling in merchandise. Springtrap is already an interesting enough character to bring into the game, and he has an iconic design that fits pretty good into the universe, and it stands out amongst the others. And people already wanted him for a couple years by now, and even predicted him being the next killer for God knows how long. Maybe it's about time for him to come to Dead by Daylight as the newest killer to please both sides of the fans of Dead by Daylight and Five Nights at Freddy's to bring in. And some people might think that FNAF is for kids, well, it came out in 2014, and those kids already grew up like I did. I grew up with it as a kid, but now I'm already an adult. From the survivors, I say it could be Michael Afton, security guard from the Five Nights at Freddy's games. But the thing is though, we haven't seen any canonical looks to the character, just fan-made concepts. So with the permission of Scott Cawthon or whoever's in charge now, they can either make a design for him as a new face like they did with Yoruichi from the Ring chapter, or they can just not do Michael Afton at all and just have Springtrap as its own separate chapter. My proposal for Survivor, if we cannot get Michael Afton, I would say it could be Vanessa from Security Breach. She already has a model and a look to the character, so they don't have to do any extra work how she should look. And yes, spoilers to Five Nights at Freddy's Security Breach. Skip to this time code shown on the screen. She is also Vanny. She can also be a killer as well, or it could be a survivor. It could work either or, maybe both, or maybe she could be Vanny could be a legendary skin or Legion. That would be pretty cool. You can also give the other animatronics some love because they belong to the original cast, like Freddy, Bonnie, Chica, and Foxy. They could be legendary skins or possibly epic skins for Springtrap in the game. At the number 6 spot, we have the Xenomorph, also known as the Alien. The Xenomorph is already iconic and beloved amongst the horror sci-fi community. It's a classic movie monster that serves a spot in Dead by Daylight. It fits the universe nicely, and we can have another horror movie monster in this game that can bring the chills to the newest survivors. And if you might wonder, why wouldn't a Xenomorph hook survivors? Well, the Xenomorph have a connection like a hive mind, receiving orders from its queen. The entity could control them or influence the Xenomorph, believing it's their queen, and it will do and say what it's told. I'll say it would be a cool concept that Xenomorphs could put survivors on wall, plastered, like hold up against their will, and there could be like a timer with a face-hugger egg right in front of them, preparing to jump and hug their face and use them as a harvesting tool. It's kind of very similar to the Executioner or Pyramid Head. It's cages. It could be like an alternate way of sacrificing a survivor, but that's just a little headcanon that I would like to see in the game. The survivor for this chapter should be Rhea Ripley. She's already established and loved in the franchise. She's already the arch nemesis of the Alien, and I can't think of anyone else that should be in the game instead of her. At the number 5 spot, we have the Necromorph from Dead Space. Dead Space is comparable to the Alien franchise, from the first game being full-blown horror in a cramped atmosphere like in Alien 1. Then a sequel is a bigger, more action-packed compared to the original and is still loved. And then there's the third game, which we don't talk about, just like the third Alien movie. There were mistakes. The Necromorphs are reanimated corpses by an ancient alien marker causing madness and death as soon as it's awakened. They are disgusting, horrifying creatures that come back to life and try to eat your face off or vomit on you. It's disgusting and it's brutal, and I love it. The Necromorphs will bring the body horror into Dead by Daylight just like the Dredge has had, because they're both deformed monsters, and I think it's already a perfect spot to join in. The survivor should be Isaac Clarke from Dead Space, since he's already the main protagonist for all the 3 games, so it seems pretty fit for him to join against these monsters during the entity's trials. At the number 4 spot, you might have guessed it, it's another Resident Evil chapter that could possibly come into Dead by Daylight. I'm not trying to force any another Resident Evil chapter, nor I want to influence something in it, but I just think there could be more killers into this game, and it's already shown to be profitable for both companies of Capcom and Dead by Daylight. Well, with the release of Wesker and Nemesis from Resident Evil, it already proves their characters fits perfect for Dead by Daylight, and it could fit so good into this game. So I have 3 killers that can possibly fit into this game. The chapters already sell pretty well, and it opens the doors for different licenses to make sequel chapters for themselves. Like Silent Hill could probably bring in a nurse or another type of monster or something else. We may never know. So I merged 3 characters on the top of my head into this one slot, because it would take a lot more slots than you think. So the first killer that I think it could possibly fit into the game, I would say, is William Birkin from Resident Evil 2, which I find more interesting and scarier than Mr. X. I'm sorry, Mr. X fans, but that's just how I feel. William's already scary looking and intimidating, and his weapon could be the giant pipe he uses to bash your face in while you're trying to run away from him. Possibly a new mutation part of his ability can help out during the trials. The second character is part of the new generation of Resident Evil villains, also known as Jack Baker from Resident Evil 7. Considered the standout villain in that game, and he grew in popularity, and I will argue he helped to revamp Resident Evil to make it special again. And what else is known for Jack Baker is welcoming new people to the family. And the third slot, speaking of popularity, Lady Dimitrescu. She's already big and intimidating, and is one of the most interesting designs in Resident Evil history, in my opinion. Her power could also be interesting, where she can use her daughters like the help her in the game, where she can have them attack survivors or slow them down, or possibly the daughters could be its own separate killer itself. The possibilities are endless with them. And if people say that she's too tall for the game, they can always shrink her down. That's not a problem. That's what they did for Nemesis from the original Resident Evil 3 remake. If you compare both models of Nemesis, Resident Evil 3 and Dead by Daylight Nemesis, he got shrunk down smaller so he can fit through the doors, and I don't see why would that be a problem for her to be small. For possible survivors for the Resident Evil chapter, we have multiple people like Jake Muller from Resident Evil 6, Sherry Birkin from Resident Evil 6, Barry Burton, or etc., because there's still a whole bunch of characters that could be added into this game from the Resident Evil franchise, because this cast is already growing by a lot. Or how they could bring in Ethan Winters and actually show his face. We may never know. At the number 3 spot, we have Herbert West, also could be known as the Reanimator. Herbert is from the horror movie called The Reanimator from 1985, and it's actually not as popular movie as that people might think. It can go deep into body horror in this genre. The killer Herbert West is a mad scientist type of killer we should get into this game, because we haven't gotten those yet, and it's something new and could be added into the game. His powers and personality is already interesting enough that he can use his serum to bring the dead back to life, and they can work for him to help him out, kind of like Nemesis zombies around the map, but it could probably focus on spreading out through the whole dead serum virus. And just like Blight, he's a mad scientist tempted with endless experimentations. At the number 2 spot, we have Victor Crowley from the Hatchet series. The Hatchet movies is a love letter to slasher movies. It's cheesy and it's campy and bloody. Victor Crowley is comparable to Jason Voorhees, since both of them have similar backstories and they are both deformed and bullied as children while growing up, but they are loved by their single parent and try to do their best to raise their children to live a normal life. Unfortunately, tragedy always has to strike, and they became alone and become cursed to live their lives as monsters. Victor Crowley could be considered as the modern remake of Jason Voorhees, but just without the hockey mask. And I will argue that he stands out enough on his own to become his own icon and symbol in the horror industry. He has the look and the brutality to fit in with the great slashers of the horror genre. At the number 1 spot, we have Pennywise, a dancing clown from the horror movie It. Pennywise is an easy fan favorite of Stephen King's work and is an obvious choice to be in the game. Pennywise also fits into so many people's top 10 best horror villains of all time and is well loved by many, even having millions begging for him to join the game just to add that crazy psychoticness and the creepy laughter just be chasing you around. Pennywise is intimidating, goofy, and brutal, not only to children but can also be for adults as well. As some may know, he loves to play with his meals, tenderizing his victims with fear before he feasts upon them. He could strike a deal with the entity to come into that realm to have more fun around of an endless buffet. Hell, even Matthew Cote wants Pennywise to join in the cast of killers in this game. We're just waiting on Stephen King because I'm pretty sure they are welcoming Pennywise with open arms. Thank you all for watching this video. Let me know down in the comments if you agree or disagree with my list, and let me know who you guys want to see on Dead by Daylight as the next killers. But that's it for me. Have a good time.